Welcome back to the Wild Files, the podcast where we unpack the people side of MSP growth, leadership, hiring, retention, and culture. I'm your host, Jane Matthews, founder of Wildcat Careers, where we work exclusively with MSPs to fix broken hiring processes, create cultures, people actually want to work in, and build stronger teams with the right people in the right seats. Today, we're talking about something almost every MSP experiences, but very few actually prepare for properly: the summer hiring slowdown. And honestly, I think a lot of MSP leaders misunderstand what summer really does operationally. Because summer itself was not usually the problem. Summer exposes the problems already sitting underneath the surface. That is the important distinction. The slowdown does not magically create operational weakness. It reveals where operational structure was, already fragile. And every year I watch the same pattern happen. Hiring momentum drops. Leadership calendars, become chaos. Annual leave creates bottleneck. Interview scheduling slows, candidates lose momentum, teams absorb more pressure. Then suddenly businesses reach September wondering, why does everything feel reactive? And honestly, the pressure usually started months earlier. Summer, it simply exposed it. And that's what we're unpacking today. The MSPs that scale steadily through the second half of the year are usually ones that prepared before pressure arrived, not after it. So let's get into it. One of the biggest mistakes MSPs make is treating summer operational pressure as though it appears suddenly. See, usually it doesn't. Summer amplifies existing weaknesses. That's what actually happens. Because when annual leave begins, operational breathing room, it shrinks. Leadership availability drops, decision-making, that slows, coverage becomes tighter, and businesses suddenly discover how dependent everything was on a small number of people. And that's a huge operational signal, particularly inside MSPs, because many MSPs unknowingly build very fragile operational structures around, key individuals. One service desk lead, one technical manager, one operations person, one senior engineer. Then summer arrives, hooray! And suddenly the business realizes everything slows when certain people disappear. That's not really a summer problem. That's an operational dependency problem. Summer simply exposes it more visibly. And recruitment often feels it first, because hiring momentum depends heavily on responsiveness. And responsiveness, that drops massively during summer. Now let's talk about momentum, because recruitment momentum is incredibly fragile, particularly during summer. This is what usually happens. A candidate interviews, the conversation goes well, everybody's positive, then someone goes on annual leave. Another stakeholder becomes unavailable. Feedback, that gets delayed. The second stage moves back 2 weeks. Then another decision maker is away, and suddenly a process that should have taken at the most 10 days takes 5 weeks. Now, internally, the MSP often sees this as, understandable. But candidates, they experience it emotionally. And that's the important part. Candidates do not experience your holiday calendar. They experience uncertainty. And uncertainty creates doubt, particularly with strong candidates. Because strong candidates usually have options. So while one business slows down operationally, another business moves faster, and recruitment momentum quietly disappears. This is why summer hiring often feels deceptively difficult. Not because good candidates vanish, but because process quietly softens. And that is a huge difference. Now, this part, guys, is massive, because many MSPs accidentally centralize hiring around leadership availability. Everything depends on it. One MD, one operations lead, one technical director. And during summer, that structure becomes incredibly fragile. Because the second those people disappear temporarily, recruitment stalls. I see this constantly. Businesses wanting to hire urgently, but unable to process and progress candidates because the hiring manager's away next week. Then the following week, another stakeholder is unavailable. Then interviews move again, and candidates, slowly disengage. Not angrily, just quietly. Because from the candidate's perspective, the process now feels uncertain, and uncertain processes create emotional instability. This matters because leadership bottlenecks do not only affect recruitment. They affect decision-making, communication, operational speed, confidence, and summer exposes all of it, particularly inside growing MSPs. Now, while recruitment slows during summer, something else usually happens simultaneously. Technical pressure increases. That is an interesting contradiction, right? Because client demand does not simply disappear because it's July. Projects still exist, tickets still arrive, escalations still happen, but now half the team is rotating annual leave. Coverage is tighter, managers are stretched, and operational pressure, quietly builds. This is where many MSPs, accidentally enter dangerous territory because overloaded technical teams often continue delivering externally while internally becoming increasingly exhausted. And honestly, summer fatigue inside MSPs is very real, particularly when recruitment is already delayed. Because now the team starts thinking, we are already stretched and support is not arriving anytime soon. And that changes morale massively. And morale shifts operational energy. Communication softens, patience drops, frustration rises, all while leadership is trying to maintain service stability. This is why summer pressure often impacts retention too, not dramatically, quietly. Now, this is fascinating because candidates interpret delayed summer processes differently from how MSPs, you intended them to be. Businesses often think this, right? So people understand it's holiday season. To a degree, yes, of course they do, but candidates still evaluate confidence. And confidence drops when communication slows, when timelines disappear, when updates, become inconsistent and those processes drift. Because candidates, they start asking themselves, is this role generally a priority? Does this business actually know what it wants? Do they like me? Did I do something wrong? Would working there feel permanently reactive? See, that is the important part. Summer recruitment delays often accidentally expose operational maturity. And strong candidates notice this quickly, particularly experienced MSP candidates. Because experienced MSP professionals understand operational patterns. They know when environments feel stretched. They know when leadership alignment feels unclear. And honestly, recruitment often becomes a live demonstration of how the business handles pressure. That's why process quality matters so much during summer, possibly more than any other time of the year. Now, this is one of the biggest patterns I see every year. Businesses arrive in Q4 feeling operationally overwhelmed, and often the root cause began, months earlier, because summer delays create downstream pressure. Hiring slows, projects stack up, teams stretch further, operational fatigue increases. Then September arrives, everybody returns. Suddenly leadership realizes we need people urgently. But now the market's busier. Competition has increased. Timelines have tightened. Pressure is going to rise. And recruitment becomes reactive again. This is why stable MSPs prepare for summer before summer arrives, not during it. And that's a huge operational mindset shift. Because proactive businesses understand hiring rhythm. They understand if recruitment slows during summer, planning must happen earlier. That sounds obvious, right? Yet many businesses still treat summer hiring as though momentum will somehow magically maintain itself automatically. And guys, it rarely does. Now the good news. The strongest MSPs handle summer very differently. Not because they avoid pressure, but because they prepare for it intentionally. Strong MSPs simplify hiring before summer begins. They reduce unnecessary steps. They align leadership calendars earlier. They clarify decision ownership. They create faster feedback loops. And importantly, they protect recruitment momentum deliberately. That matters massively because candidate confidence depends heavily on consistency. Strong MSPs also recognize operational risk earlier. They ask, where will pressure increase? which teams are already stretched, what hiring support where we need before holidays actually begin. That level of forecasting changes everything because recruitment becomes proactive instead of reactive. And proactive recruitment always creates calmer operational outcomes. Always. I think this is one of the most interesting parts of all. Summer exposes leadership discipline. Because when pressure rises and schedules become messy, operational habits, well, they become visible. Some businesses maintain communication, structure, decision speed, candidate confidence. Others become reactive, delayed, fragmented, unclear. And recruitment exposes that difference quickly. This is why some MSPs continue hiring successfully through summer, while others, well, they feel completely stuck. The difference is rarely the market. Usually it is operational discipline. And disciplined businesses create confidence. Confidence attracts strong candidates. That relationship, guys, matters massively. Now, I think summer recruitment inside MSPs teaches a really important lesson. Operational stability does not happen accidentally. It's designed. And the businesses scaling steadily through the second half of the year are usually the businesses planning before pressure arrives, not reacting afterwards, because reactive hiring during summer creates slower recruitment, weaker processes, candidate uncertainty, operational fatigue and retention risk. And all of that compounds later. So if your MSP keeps feeling operationally chaotic every September, look backwards. What actually happened during the summer? What slowed? What stalled? Where did communication weaken? Where did leadership bottlenecks appear? Because the answers are usually there. And honestly, most of it is fixable. With earlier planning, clearer structure, and more intentional hiring rhythm. So that's it for today's episode of The Wild Files. If this episode made you suddenly nervous about your summer hiring process, honestly good, because the businesses that scale sustainably through H2 are usually the ones preparing before pressure arrives, not once the chaos is already there. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with another MSP leader currently saying we will probably pick recruitment back up after the summer. And if you want more conversations around hiring, leadership, retention, and operational stability inside MSPs, make sure you subscribe. Until next time, stay intentional, stay structured, and as always, guys, stay wild.